On July 10, 1945, 2 months after Nazi Germany's surrender, the German submarine U-530 surfaced in Argentina, long after every other U-boat had been ordered home or captured. Commander Otto Wehrmuth and his crew arrived without logs, torpedoes, or a clear explanation, fueling global suspicion and the birth of Nazi escape legends. Was U-530 just a desperate vessel dodging Allied retribution, or the key to a secret plan stretching across continents? This is the story of U-530, the Nazi submarine that vanished into the Atlantic void, only to reappear where no one expected, and the unanswered questions it left behind. On May 8, 1945, as news of Germany's unconditional surrender swept through the U-boat pens of Norway, Otto Wehrmuth faced a decision that would haunt naval intelligence for decades. The order from Grand Admiral Dönitz was clear: cease hostilities and surrender to the nearest Allied port. Yet in the cramped control room of U-530, Wehrmuth hesitated. He later told interrogators he suspected an enemy ruse, a trick to lure U-boats into captivity or worse. At just 25, with only a few months in command, he weighed the fates of his 54 crewmen against rumors of Allied retribution and Nazi propaganda warning of brutal treatment for prisoners. Arguments broke out among his officers. Some urged obedience, fearing the consequences of defiance. Others, shaped by months of chaos and defeat, wondered if any order could be trusted. Wehrmuth chose a third path. He plotted a course far from Europe, steering south toward Argentina, a country he believed still neutral, despite its late declaration of war against Germany. According to U.S. Navy interrogation notes, he told his men they would seek internment in a distant land, not surrender on terms they could not verify. The chain of command fractured, but discipline held. With the Reich collapsing behind them, U-530 slipped from Norway's coast into the Atlantic, beginning a voyage shrouded in secrecy and suspicion. Every logbook entry, every radio message, became a potential liability. The decision was made. They would leave no trace. With the North Atlantic behind them, U-530's crew settled into a routine defined by silence and uncertainty. For nearly 10 weeks, the submarine avoided all radio contact, relying on dead reckoning and the hope that no Allied patrols would stumble upon their trail. The Type 1XC's snorkel, a slender metal tube barely breaking the surface, allowed diesel engines to run while submerged at periscope depth. But it offered little comfort. Each use filled the boat with a choking mix of exhaust and damp air, forcing men to ration not just food and water, but each breath. Rations dwindled quickly. Fresh bread and vegetables vanished in the first weeks, replaced by hard biscuits, canned meat, and whatever could be scrounged from hidden stores. Water was measured to the drop. Crew members slept in shifts, their bunks wedged between torpedo racks and machinery, as condensation dripped from the bulkheads. The constant thrum of engines and the ever-present threat of detection wore on nerves. Arguments simmered in the close quarters, tempers flared over small slights, and the lack of news from the outside world left imaginations to run wild. Orders from Wehrmuth were absolute: destroy anything that could reveal their journey. One by one, torpedoes were ejected into the deep. The deck gun, once bolted to the foredeck, was dismantled and tossed overboard. Secret papers, code books, and the ship's log were burned or scattered at sea, leaving no official trace of their route or intentions. By the time U-530 neared the South American coast, the submarine was stripped of weapons and records, a steel shell carrying 54 men, and a growing sense of unease, still hidden beneath the waves. Dawn broke over Mar del Plata on July 10, 1945, as fishermen noticed an unfamiliar silhouette offshore. A dark shape surfaced quietly, its hull stripped of weapons, a white flag fluttering from the conning tower. The Argentine Navy, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, A sentry on the breakwater, distracted and unaware, did not raise the alarm until the submarine was almost at the harbor mouth. Through a blinking Morse lamp, the vessel announced itself, German submarine. Within minutes, naval launches encircled the U-boat, their crews tense, hands on triggers, uncertain if this was a genuine surrender or something more sinister. Oberleutnant Otto Vermuth, immaculate in a faded Kriegsmarine uniform, stepped onto the deck and saluted the Argentine officers. 54 exhausted men followed, lining up in silence as local reporters and curious onlookers pressed against the barricades. The crew was marched ashore under heavy guard, the air thick with questions. News of the surrender raced through the city, drawing crowds to the docks and filling radio broadcasts with speculation. The spectacle played out before a nation still reeling from war, as Argentina's naval commanders took charge of the most notorious submarine to ever arrive unannounced on their shores. Argentina, in 1945, was a country where shadows often blurred with sunlight. Under President Juan Perón, the government had maintained a policy of neutrality for most of the war, only severing ties with the Axis in March, just weeks before Germany collapsed. This late shift was more a diplomatic gesture than a true break. Within Argentina's borders, pro-German sympathies remained strong, especially among the powerful German-Argentine community that had flourished for decades. Buenos Aires was home to German-language newspapers, clubs, and schools, and the country's elite quietly admired German military prowess and technological achievement. Perón himself had served as a military attaché in fascist Italy and was known for his admiration of authoritarian order. His government offered a haven for European immigrants, and as the war ended, the doors remained open, sometimes officially, often through back channels. For U-boat crews weighing their options, Argentina represented not just distance from the chaos of Europe, but the promise of sympathetic treatment and a chance to disappear among friends. This reputation would soon draw fugitives of every rank, fueling rumors that the arrival of U-530 was only the beginning of a larger exodus. The seeds of myth took root in these fertile shadows, setting the stage for stories that would outlast the war itself. Within hours of U-530's surrender, the interrogation rooms in Mar del Plata filled with a mix of Argentine naval officers, U.S. Office of Naval Intelligence agents, and translators. Otto Vermuth, composed but cautious, faced a barrage of questions about his motives, his route, and the destroyed records. His answers rarely matched the details investigators expected. When pressed about the missing logbook, he insisted it had been burned at sea to protect operational security, yet could not specify the exact date or location. Asked why the crew carried no identification, Vermuth offered only that it was standard procedure under extraordinary circumstances. These explanations left more questions than answers. The press, kept at bay outside the naval compound, seized on every rumor. Some reporters claimed the crew hinted at secret missions or mysterious passengers. Others pointed to the lack of serial numbers on equipment and the absence of torpedoes as evidence of something hidden. U.S. interrogators noted shifting timelines in the crew's testimony. No two officers gave the same account of when the deck gun was jettisoned or how long the submarine had run without surfacing. Each contradiction fed the suspicion that U-530's voyage was not simply a desperate flight, but part of a larger, concealed operation. The arrival of another German submarine, U-977, just weeks later, would only deepen these doubts. U-530's arrival in Argentina was soon followed by another shock. On August 17, 1945, U-977, under the command of Oberleutnant Heinz Schaefer, surfaced at Mar del Plata after a similarly protracted and secretive voyage. The timing, just 5 weeks after U-530, gave new life to speculation that these landings were not isolated events, but part of a coordinated escape. The Argentine press drew bold lines between the two submarines, fueling stories of a clandestine network spiriting fugitives from the ruins of the Reich to South America. While official investigations found no evidence of high-ranking Nazis aboard either U-boat, the myth flourished in a country already known as a safe harbor for those fleeing justice. Years later, the world would learn that Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust, had slipped into Buenos Aires under a false name. Josef Mengele, the infamous camp doctor, found refuge in Argentina before vanishing deeper into the continent. These proven escapes cast a long shadow, lending credibility to rumors that submarines like U-530 and U-977 might have carried more than just weary sailors. The story of the U-boats became inseparable from the real and imagined routes that allowed some of the Third Reich's most wanted men to vanish into the Argentine dusk. On July 10, 1945, U-530 arrived in Mar del Plata, Argentina, 2 months after Germany's surrender. Commander Otto Vermuth and his 54-man crew had destroyed their logs, weapons, and radio equipment, leaving investigators with few hard answers. Despite thorough interrogations by Argentine and U.S. authorities and a complete inspection of the submarine, no evidence was found of secret passengers or hidden cargo. Yet contradictions in Vermuth's timeline and the missing records allowed rumors of Nazi escapes to flourish. The confirmed later arrival of U-977 and the documented presence of Nazi fugitives like Adolf Eichmann and Josef Mengele in South America only deepened suspicion. Today, historians agree that U-530's journey was extraordinary, but find no proof of a covert mission. Still, the unanswered questions ensure the story remains part of the larger debate over Nazi flight. U-530 stands as a rare case where fact, myth, and the limits of evidence continue to shape our view of history.